Well, Australians were told this Prime Minister and his government, and straight from his own lips, would be honest, open, fair and accountable. Well, for the last 3 years, we've seen anything but this in the way he's treated people and this parliament. We are a democracy, yet he treats us as a socialist, union-controlled government. The one time he gave Australians a real say about any issue, the voice of the parliament, they rejected him. They humiliated him. They showed him he was completely and utterly wrong, and he's never forgiven the Australian people for that. That's why his government is now more secretive than ever.
All right, mate, buckle up, grab your cuppa, and let's dive right into the most dramatic political roast this side of the Southern Hemisphere. Because today we're talking about the day one nation fought back against what they called Labour's abuse of power, or, as it might sound to the casual Aussie viewer, parliamentary reality TV with extra paperwork and fewer laughs. Now, before we jump in, a quick favour. Legend, if you enjoy a good laugh while we untangle the madness of Aussie politics, don't forget to like, subscribe and give that bell a good old ding, so you never miss another episode of Australia's most...
Well, Australians were told this Prime Minister and his government, and straight from his own lips, would be honest, open, fair and accountable. Well, for the last 3 years, we've seen anything but this in the way he's treated people and this parliament. We are a democracy, yet he treats us as a socialist, union-controlled government. The one time he gave Australians a real say about any issue, the voice of the parliament, they rejected him. They humiliated him. They showed him he was completely and utterly wrong, and he's never forgiven the Australian people for that. That's why his government is now more secretive than ever. They're doing everything they can to avoid scrutiny and accountability, hiding their true plans and motives. The Prime Minister has sole discretion to choose how many advisers One Nation and other crossbench senators are allocated. So what did the Prime Minister do? He radically cut the staffing of those senators who do not support the Labor Party, which party opposes the radical, unworkable policies of Labor more than any other. Of course, One Nation. When the Prime Minister cuts the staffing of those senators who take an opposing political view, he has an obvious conflict of interest. The incentive for the Prime Minister is to cut the resources of his political opponents in seeking to take political advantage and cut us off at the legs. Reducing the number of support staff for a senator effectively reduces the ability of a senator to function on behalf of the electorate and to provide an effective opposition, a foundation of our Westminster system of democratic government. Before continuing, here's some background. Each member of parliament is allocated electorate officers to serve constituents. These are the same in number for all senators. Crossbench senators have until recently been allocated 2 parliamentary advisers, designated personal advisers. Their duty is to assist senators with researching proposed legislation, assist senators in writing speeches, advise on parliamentary tactics, be the first point of contact with community groups and deputise for senators in meetings when the senator is engaged in the chamber or elsewhere in the state. You may wonder why we need these extra staff. It's because we must do the same work as the major parties with far fewer resources, scrutinising legislation, liaising with effective stakeholders and getting the input of the Australian people, let alone trying to get our legislation drafted to put on the floor of Parliament, which that is another issue. On the 23rd of June 2025, Prime Minister Albanese notified me he would not allocate any additional staff to One Nation's 2 new senators, giving me the responsibility of allocating the same staff resources across twice as many senators. In doing this, he had exercised our discretion authorised under Section 4.1, 11.3 and 12 of the Members of Parliament Staff Act, MOPS. I now present his allocation of senators across the crossbench. Some crossbench senators, including Senator Roberts, were not allocated any personal staff. Senator Spearman, who left the Labor Party in disgust, has had no personal staff allocated to her. Senator Lambie, though, who often supports Labor, has been granted 3 personal staff to assist her in the relatively small state of Tasmania. Oh, she's not the only senator. Remember, they've also got 12 senators, including Senator Lambie. The state I represent, Queensland, has around 10 times the number of constituents as Tasmania. One Nation secured Senate seats in New South Wales with more than 8.2 million people, and Western Australia with more than 3 million people. But no personal staff. Now remember, Tasmania, 500,000 people with 3 extra personal staff, and yet we don't get anything for Western Australia or New South Wales. Yet these officers were allocated no staff at all. Significantly, Senators Lydia Thorpe, David Pocock and Tammy Tyrrell are often supportive of Labor and the Greens and have retained their allocations of 2 each. Surprise, surprise. One Nation senators, who often hold Labor accountable, very often I should say, are cut to an average of 1 each. Senator Ralph Babette, who holds Labor accountable, was slashed to 1. The pattern is clear. Crossbench senators who support Labor were unaffected. Those who hold Labor accountable were halved, gutted. This clearly shows the Prime Minister to be incapable of fairness and clearly displays his vindictiveness, incompetence and bias. Yeah. He breached important provisions of administrative law as defined in common law, resulting from decisions in courts, including the High Court. These include: he gave no reason for his decision. He had not consulted or sought input from any One Nation senator. He did not act in good faith. He did not act with a proper purpose. He had not considered relevant matters. He had not acted on reasonable grounds, given that One Nation had doubled its existing number of senators from 2 to 4, with no increase in personal staff allocated. He did not act based on supporting evidence. He had not provided affected persons with procedural fairness, including personal staff and senators. Senators and affected staff were given no opportunity to put their case to the Prime Minister before his decision to reduce staff. He or his office ordered the employment of Senator Roberts' staff to be terminated before they were made aware. It's the only senator's office in which that occurred. Senator Roberts was given 12 minutes' notice to respond to a deadline late on a Friday night, when Senator Roberts worked that night until 10:30 p.m. and did not check his emails. The Prime Minister had not properly considered the merits of the decision. He has still not indicated that he had evaluated all relevant evidence. He had not acted reasonably or fairly, as senators were not allocated staff on the basis of need, nor were senators treated evenly. Some senators had savage cuts made to staffing and some had no cuts made at all. The Prime Minister did not inform senators that he had made a decision that affected them. Some senators found out via the media. The respect that is not shown in this place. The decision flies in the face of the recent Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet review on health risks to parliamentary staffers from workplace stress and excessive work demands. This raises serious workplace health and safety issues. The Parliamentary Workplace Support Services review concluded that staffing levels overall are not adequate to meet all the parliamentary